If you thought night one of the digital DNC was cringeworthy and awful, allow me to introduce you to the second night, last night, which in my opinion was way worse. I'm sorry, man. At this point, the DNC is an unmitigated disaster. And I can only imagine the next night is going to be a whole lot worse. First, let me show you this image. What you are seeing on the screen is a man dancing. This was the closeout for the first DNC night. And people, Kyle Kalinske, a progressive, tweeted out this video saying this is Donald Trump's reelection or something. The moment Donald Trump got reelected. In this image, you can see a comment on a YouTube video saying, "We're going to lose, aren't we?" Perhaps it really does seem like they're preparing for a crushing defeat, but this was night one. Night two was actually worse. My friends, I give you the ultimate in absurdity. Peggy Flanagan says, "I'm excited for the DNC Native American Caucus meeting today, including Elizabeth Warren." This is real. Elizabeth Warren spoke at the Native American Caucus on the DNC. They started with the Pledge of Allegiance. Elizabeth Warren, what? AOC endorses Bernie Sanders, not Joe Biden. They played this really cringy celebrate good times, come on, with Joe Biden just kind of lost. He stuttered and he couldn't speak properly. This was ridiculously bad. I do not understand how this is the Democratic Party. I believe they're the biggest political party in this country, one of the most powerful in the world. And this was such an insane disaster. I'm shocked. I looked back. Listen, I stopped and reflected. I said, am I doing this thing where I just rag on Democrats nonstop? I do often. It's like all the time. And I'm like, but do they really deserve it? I've given praise to Democrats when they've done good things. Elizabeth Warren called out big tech, said they should be broken up, and I praised her. AOC, the same thing. When AOC was teaming up with Ted Cruz, I praised her as well. I try to make sure credit is given where credit is due. But no, it really is this bad. Even Stephen Colbert was dragging Bill Clinton because they had him speaking, because Bill Clinton is not a good how are you going to criticize Donald Trump, Bill Clinton? It's basically what Colbert said. And not only this, the day Bill Clinton is set to speak, leaked photos come out of him with a certain, I got to be careful. I want to keep this one political, so I'm not going to get into the whole flight logs incident with Bill Clinton, but he's getting a massage from one of the victims. I'm just, you know what, man? Again, I apologize. I'm trying to keep this one focused on the DNC, but it goes deep and dark. And this is the same day they're having Bill Clinton speak, and he's going to criticize Donald Trump to such an absurd degree. Even Colbert himself calls it out. Now you got AOC dragging NBC News for accurately pointing out AOC endorsed Bernie Sanders at the event. She claims it's all normal. Okay. Let's take a look at what's going on, because after all of this, they're still pretending like the Democrats are going to win. But let me just, I got to say it one more time. Elizabeth Warren speaking on the Native American Caucus. What? How is this a thing? Oh, man, you know, I'm laughing because I'm having a good time here. It's fun. It's funny. That's how crazy this year has been. Huh? Can it get any crazier? Probably not. All right, let's go through all the news. Before I get started, head over to timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's many ways you can give. There's a P.O. box where you can send stuff. But if you would really like to support my channel, make sure you subscribe, because a lot of people who watch aren't actually subscribed. If you want to make sure YouTube does send you my videos when they get published, just below the video player is a subscribe button. Give it a tap, and just like that, you're more likely to receive my videos. Hit the like button and the notification bell if you really want to help out. And also share this video if you think I do a good enough job that other people should hear what I have to say. Check this out. I love this article. This is from KPRC. I believe it's just a local radio station. They say Senator Warren speaks at DNC Native American Caucus meeting. No, really, I didn't believe it. I kid you not. I refuse to believe it. I did not believe it. I said, y'all are yanking my chain. Somebody made a fake graphic. This is not real. It's real. It's real. Even we can't believe this is real. They say, remember when Elizabeth Warren blatantly lied about being Native American for decades after spending years telling people she had Native American lineage? And then she released an embarrassing DNA test and issued a public apology for her dishonest claim. The Cherokee Nation Secretary of State said in a statement, it makes a mockery out of DNA tests and its legitimate uses, while also dishonoring legitimate tribal governments and their citizens whose ancestors are well documented and whose heritage is proven. Senator Warren is undermining tribal interests with her continued claim of tribal heritage. But last night, at the Democrat Party's virtual convention, It was like her botched DNA display never even happened. Amazingly, the DNC asked Senator Warren to participate in the Native American Caucus meeting. Of course they did. Zach Parkinson says the DNC, including Elizabeth Warren as one of the participants in its Native American Caucus meeting today, can't make it up. Students for Trump said Babylon Bee articles become reality as the DNC has listed Elizabeth Warren as one of the keynote, as one of their Native American Caucus keynotes. Naomi Lim tweeted Elizabeth Warren during the DNC's Native American Caucus. Quote, with Joe Biden in office, Indian country will not need to worry about that kind of disrespect any longer. She was referring to Trump's relationship with tribal nations. Yeah, I'm stunned. I really don't know what to say. I didn't believe it, but let me pull up Naomi Lynn, okay? I saw this and I said, who is this? Naomi Lynn is a reporter for the DC Examiner, formerly of the BBC CNN Politics. I'm sorry, I still can't believe this is real. There's no amount of images, no amount of journalists who can say this, that she did this, for me to believe it. But what do you want me to say? It happened. Now, what was really surprising to me was that Joe Biden's grandkids kicked off the DNC by leading the Pledge of Allegiance. And this was the other day, mind you, but the Pledge of Allegiance to me, and again, this is the other night, just shows it's all fake, isn't it? It's all just a game. They don't really believe anything. That's the best I can say. Now, the Biden campaign has begun distancing itself from the former Women's March leader, Sarsour, after DNC appearance. A spokesman says Sarsour has no role in the campaign. The reason why I'm just very quickly highlighting these 2 points right now is to show you I don't believe anything they say. They support the Black Lives Matter activists who are going around burning the flag. And I guess you can support peaceful protests. I'm in favor of people having the right to burn the flag, for instance, because that is the most profound representation of the freedom the flag itself represents. It's kind of a weird paradox, but, I support that too. But when you have 83 nights of riots where they're attacking, locals and residences and trying to burn buildings down and kill people, and the DNC refuses to acknowledge it and repeatedly just says peaceful protests, as these people quite literally call for decolonizing this country, like not supporting it in any way, and they want to lead with the Pledge of Allegiance. They never actually believed in this stuff, did they? Or how about this? They're going to distance themselves from Linda Sarsour. I'll say, okay, I'll tell you what. Credit where credit is due. I'm not the biggest fan of the Pledge of Allegiance, but I'm kind of just whatever. The reason why I wouldn't say I'm a big fan is because I believe in individualism and liberty, and you shouldn't have to pledge yourself, to the nation to be a patriot. So for the most part, it's kind of whatever. But I respect them for trying to be patriotic. Okay, I'll give credit where credit is due. They want to distance themselves from Linda Sarsour. Okay, fine. Credit where credit is due. I got no problem saying that. I just don't believe it. I'm sorry. Because AOC was also deeply involved in the Women's March, and they give her a prime slot where she comes out and endorses Bernie Sanders and not Joe Biden. Now, this led to a whole other clown show of a controversy, and I'm just shocked how bad all of this is. AOC endorses Bernie, and everybody starts hooting and hollering like, wow, she's supposed to endorse Joe Biden, but she comes out for Bernie? Unsurprising, right? Because she's a progressive. Apparently, she's claiming now it was a procedural formality and that she is supporting Joe Biden, but this was just a normal part of the process. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that everybody endorsed Hillary last time. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it is procedural, but now you have this controversy around what she should have done, what she ended up doing, and how the media reported it. So whether it was her fault or not, whether it was the DNC's fault, this just shows more absurd confusion among the ranks. But more importantly, is not so much that she endorsed, Bernie Sanders, is that she gave this speech that was like, she was like speaking to a postgraduate class of a gender, a postgraduate gender studies class, talking about colonization and stuff like this, where she's getting praised. And regular people have no idea what any of this means. The Democrats have their heads wrapped up in Twitter and don't understand what real life is. So check this out. AOC gets just 60 seconds at DNC and does not mention Biden as she formally nominates Bernie Sanders and praises his fight for social, economic, and human rights, but congratulates Joe in a tweet later. So here's what we ended up seeing from NBC News. They say, in one of the shortest speeches of the DNC, Rep. Ocasio-Cortez did not endorse Joe Biden. Quote, I hereby second the nomination of Senator Bernard Sanders of Vermont for President of the United States of America. And this led to a lot of people, many conservatives, saying, oh man, the DNC is a clown show. Now, to be fair, AOC pushed back very hard, saying, no way. How are you going to fix this incredible amount of damage and misinformation that you're responsible for, calling out NBC News? NBC News issued a 1:15 a.m. tweet, she says, to slip under the radar after blowing up a totally false and divisive narrative across networks, isn't it? You see, what AOC claims is that the DNC shared the procedural purpose of my remarks to the media well in advance. NBC knew what was going to happen and that it was routine. How does a headline that malicious and misleading happen without prior knowledge? Okay, so maybe it was normal and they had planned for a formal, declaration of support from AOC. And maybe AOC now is calling out the fake news. Doesn't this just play into the idea of the clown show? The fact that AOC is slamming the media for fake news because they wanted her to formally endorse Bernie just shows that this thing was disorganized and a mess from the get-go. But I'll tell you what gets better. NBC News didn't do anything wrong. Look, I'm the first person to call out fake news when fake news is fake news, but this ain't it. NBC just said one of the shortest speeches, and she did not endorse Joe Biden. That's a fact. Did you want them to write the entire article on Twitter explaining the formality? Now, they did put an editorial note saying the tweet should have included more detail on the nominating process. We have deleted the tweet to prevent its further spread. But what they said was simple and factual. Just because people didn't understand the context isn't necessarily the fault of the media. I think it's more the fault of social media and the limitations of social media. Now, I can respect NBC News because they felt it was poorly framed. I've absolutely done similar things. But I think it's funny that AOC is acting like them putting out the quote is fake news and is misrepresentation. And I'm sorry, man. This whole thing, this whole DNC is it's just hilariously bad. Take a look at this. Melissa Mark Vivarito says AOC specifically mentioning colonization in her speech was incredibly powerful. As someone actively engaged in movement to decolonize Puerto Rico, I felt that's for sure. Gracias, Congressista, whatever. And then we have this from Jonathan Chait calling her out. Chait is famously the guy who I believe he said that Donald Trump may have been a Russian asset since the 80s. So, take what he says with a grain of salt. But he said, I don't think this rhetoric by AOC is for millennials per se. I think it's for products of elite universities. And here's a quote. It says, she talked about a mass of people's movement working to establish 21st century social, economic, and human rights. She called for that movement to recognize and repair the wounds of racial injustice, colonization, misogyny, and homophobia, and reimagine systems of immigration and foreign policy that turn away from the violence and xenophobia of our past. These are all lines that are standard fare on the millennial left, but would never get past a Biden speechwriter. He's Jonathan Chait saying it's not for millennials. It's for the products of elite universities. And he's correct. And of course, AOC and many other people slammed him. Here's what AOC said. If you believe people have to go to an elite university to know what racism, classism, and xenophobia are, maybe that is a reflection of your class race experience more than it is anyone else's. Working class people are just as perceptive as privileged, oftentimes more so. Here's why I'm calling this out. First of all, Jonathan Chait is correct. That the idea of anyone understanding the complexities of decolonization, as far as I understand, you're basically saying turn back the clock on the actual formation and expansion of the United States itself. Decolonization, they've actually called for giving back Manhattan and a bunch of other absurdities. They've called for giving back land. Yeah, that's what decolonization is. I don't think regular Americans know what you're advocating for. And this is a trick of the far left intersectionalists. Using obscure language they pretend should be common knowledge that you don't really understand to trick you into supporting things that give them power. Here's my favorite part, though. This is the part that confused me. Working class people are just as perceptive as the privileged. What does that mean, AOC? Did she just pull a Joe Biden? Because we know where you think privilege lies with white males. I get it. Privilege can exist with other people, like people who go to elite universities. But isn't a Latino student at Harvard still a marginalized person, or is he a privileged person? I'd like an answer to this question, because if she believes that anyone can be privileged, it kind of pushes back a little bit on their whole notion of white male privilege, because then, I'll put it this way, if she's saying a white working class person doesn't have privilege and a Latino Yale student does, it kind of debunks the whole white privilege thing, right? I think she actually might be pulling a Joe Biden when he said poor people, poor kids are just as smart and talented as white kids, if you know what I mean. That's basically what I interpret from her statements. But okay, I'll tell you what. Let's move on from the AOC portion of the DNC clown show to the Stephen Colbert slamming Bill Clinton for DNC speech that lectured Trump on Oval Office behavior and reminds him he was also impeached on the same day embarrassing photo of being massaged by Epstein victim emerges. Even Colbert himself is mocking Bill Clinton. Look, let me read. Stephen Colbert has mocked the Democrats for featuring Bill Clinton discussing the importance of the Oval Office and lecturing President Donald Trump about his behavior. Colbert, in his nightly riff on the 2-hour convention, joked that Clinton's expression was of shock. Seen here finding out Ghislaine Maxwell was arrested, he joked. Wow, that's really brutal. The former president let Trump have it, Colbert said, cutting to show a clip of Clinton stating that the Oval Office should be a command center. Instead, it's a storm center, Clinton said. Colbert commented, all right, that's true. That's a good point. But I don't think Bill Clinton gets to lecture anyone on what should happen in the Oval Office. Those in glass houses should not be allowed near interns. Man, Colbert is a lefty late night show host. I think the Democrats are getting prepared to lose, and I'm not kidding. It's not me being hyperbolic. I really do believe, we saw that the Democrats didn't buy top tier digital ad space. The Trump campaign did. I mean, that says to me, they know they're going to lose. The way I kind of described it is, you ever, I put out a tweet where I was like, the Biden-Harris ticket it feels kind of like when you're in a rush and all your socks are dirty. So you just grab 2 random socks that they don't match and they're not going to impress anybody, but you weren't planning on impressing anybody at the Dairy Queen anyway. So you wore them not caring. That's kind of what it feels like, right? That they just grabbed random B tier, whoever, and just stuck them together and said, go for it. We're going to lose this year. Fine, whatever. Because now even Colbert is dragging them. I'll tell you this. If this really is the best the Democrats have to muster, then wow. Republicans are going to own Congress, the Senate, everything for the next 20 or 30 years. But maybe this is the Democrats preparing for the next cycle. Maybe they really are planning on losing. We'll see. I want to talk a bit about this because they're saying Biden's going to win. Now, I'm not going to play the video because I probably get a copyright strike. NBC News posted this video. It says, watch Joe Biden celebrate, in quotes, Democratic presidential nomination at DNC. Look at this poor old man. The reason why I'm showing you this, that song, it's like, celebrate good times, come on. This is the song playing as the balloons are falling and Biden looks confused as people come in. It is the lowest production quality, cringiest thing I've ever seen. The reason I highlight this is because it's basically a Simpsons joke. I kid you not. The Simpsons called it. Not in the same, not completely, and not perfectly. I'll put it this way. But the joke from The Simpsons was Al Gore, and he's sitting in his office and he goes, this calls for a celebration. And then he puts a record on and it plays Celebrate, the song. And when they say celebrate good times, Al Gore goes, I will. I heard that song and I was like, you look at Joe Biden's face and you look at the reaction of the Democrats all clapping along to this song. And I'm like, this is quite literally the driest, worst production quality ever. I'm willing to bet they're saving their money for next year or, for the next couple of years. 2 years from now, there's going to be another congressional race. We got some Senate races coming up and they know, hey, you know what? Let's make as much money off Trump as we can and then get ready. I don't know how the finances work, but I'm pretty sure whatever money they don't spend, they can use for more campaigns. So maybe that's the real goal. Now we did get a Biden gaffe, because like I said, it was a clown show of a disaster, right? Lady. Joe Biden crashes Jill Biden's DNC speech. And it was weird. It was really weird. Check this out. Biden said that Jill Biden was the love of his life and the strongest person I know. She's a backbone like a ramrod. She loves fiercely, cares deeply. Nothing stops her when she sets her mind at getting something right. Biden said, speaking as he dangled a mask between his fingers. Joe Biden urged everyone to think about their favorite teacher who gave them confidence. That's the kind of first lady this Jill Biden will be, he said. And what was that? It was really weird. Joe Biden just broke. But it's not the first time he's done this. I look at this thing of, this video of Joe Biden and the song Celebrate, and I'm saddened by this, man. The dude is just not there. The dude is not there. Look at this. Biden is just lost, says Obama's White House doctor. This is from the Washington Examiner. They say the chief White House doctor to former President Barack Obama is worried about the mental health and stamina of former Vice President Joe Biden, suggesting that something is not right with the Democratic presidential nominee. The best way I can describe him every time I see him is that he's just lost, said Dr. Ronnie Jackson, the former White House physician to Obama and Trump. I won't make any particular diagnosis about dementia, but what I will say is that something is not right, added the retired Navy Rear Admiral who recently won a House GOP primary in Texas. And it is getting so bad that he is not comfortable with Biden being commander-in-chief. I'm not, he said, of the top Democrat set to be nominated by the Democratic Party for president on Thursday. He was. And I will give credit to the DC Examiner mentioning this guy recently won a GOP primary. So, he's biased. He is a former Obama doctor, a former Trump doctor. I think he's biased. But listen, man, when I watched this video of Joe Biden saying the first lady, I couldn't understand what that was. It's almost like that moment where Hillary Clinton shook violently. Remember that the reporter asks Hillary a question and then she just shook, in a weird manner. And everybody thought something was wrong with her. Perhaps that was a moment where she was trying to be silly, whoa, I'm overwhelmed, but didn't know how to actually pull it off. Maybe it was just her acting silly. Not well, I might add. But this Joe Biden gaffe is just a long addition to all of the weird mental breaks that Joe Biden has had. He was directly asked a question in an interview about his physical and mental fitness, and he couldn't say it. He was like physical and mental fitness, and it was just painful to watch him unable to speak. This is the weirdest and most upsetting absurdity of the whole DNC. We know Joe Biden can't handle this. We know he doesn't have the ability to do his job. He slurs his speech even when he does speak. Even when he is literally saying English words, it's mind-numbing to me that we've come this far. The Democrats have played this game. Maybe I'm underestimating the degree to which they think they're going to lose and the resources they're willing to expend. Like I said about, grabbing random socks and then you get Joe Biden. I think it's beyond that. I think they could have chosen some throwaway candidates they knew didn't have what it takes to win. But Joe Biden is literally on the verge. He's retired as far as I can tell. He's the oldest nominee ever. They've picked someone they're like, look, it's going to be a little tough on you, Joe, but we really don't want to expend any legitimate resources. So how about Joe Biden, Kamala Harris? The least valuable assets in the Democratic, Party. And that's what we get. And that's why you see things like this. And I got to say, not only do I feel like they don't expect him to win, I think they even know he can't do it anyway. Now, they'll say it. They'll be like, Joe's got everything required. And the American people can only be lied to so much. Which brings me now to another one of these forecasts. This is from JHK Forecast, which has Donald Trump set for a 17.4% chance of winning. And I'm just, you know what, man? If this really is an existential crisis and the U.S. is on the verge of collapse and they're going to elect Joe Biden after all of this and embrace the weirdness of AOC's decolonization, of the Democrats literally putting Elizabeth Warren in the Native American Caucus, then you know what? Fine, America's done. Okay, I'm sorry. If the American people can't see through this stuff, we lost a long time ago. Donald Trump is far from perfect, but he's not bad. He's not bad. He's done some pretty good things. There are things to criticize him for, you betcha. 100%. I say it all the time. I know, some people, the Trump supporters are like, it's tiring when Tim says, he's going to criticize Trump. I'm sorry, man. I'm not an overt Trump supporter. I'm not going to be. I will continually praise him for the good things he does. And the main reason, you don't hear these things in the mainstream press. I can make videos all day and night, be like, here is something that Trump has done. And I will say in the past year, I think he's done a tremendous job. He's done an excellent job on the economy. I think he's done a fine job dealing with the coronavirus. Not perfect, but hey, he's improved. His demeanor has improved. And there's a lot of policy things he's doing that I'm a fan of. Right to try was huge. Pulling our troops out of Afghanistan, credit where credit is due. Okay. I'm not going to play these stupid media games. Joe Biden, in my opinion, ain't all bad. You know, he criticized the far left, said that these extremists should be arrested and prosecuted, but the dude just is not physically capable of doing the job, nor mentally. So are people really going to vote for this guy? Wow. I mean, I kind of hope not. Betting odds, however, have slightly improved for the Republicans in Senate control. Right now, betting odds over at electionbettingodds.com says the Democrats are still favored to win, but have gone down 2.9 points, and the Republicans up 2.9 points. House control is at 82.9 betting odds for the Democrats. When it comes to the presidential election, Joe Biden is currently at a 0% gain, and Trump is a 0.1% gain. So the Republicans have some minor boosts in their odds. I just got to say, you know what? If it were me, I'm not going to put any hard money down, but I will make a gentleman's bet right now that Trump's going to win. Okay, that's my gentleman's bet. That just means there's no money put on it, right? But I remember back in 2016, a lot of people won fat cash when they voted for Trump because the odds were like 10-1. So people put down $100, won $1,000. Nobody thought Trump was going to win. And I got to say, man, if you make betting odds based on the broken media industry, I think you've got a good chance of winning some good money. I'm not a fan of gambling, though, so I would never do this, nor would I advocate for it. I just show the betting odds because I typically like to say the money, the bookies don't want to lose money. Their betting odds are what they hope to be safe, right? But maybe they'll make a lot of money because people are going to bet on Biden, think he's going to win, and then they know he's going to lose, and so they're going to get a bunch of, I don't know, suckers, whatever. Well, that was your night 2 of the DNC. It was confusing, chaotic with AOC. They put Elizabeth Warren on the Native American Caucus. Joe Biden seemed lost half the time. They sang Celebrate in a cringe-worthy nomination process. The quality was low. Biden gaffed again. And in all of this, no matter how bad they do, the odds are supposedly in their favor. I look forward to night 3. Of course, I'm not going to watch it live because I'm going to be doing a show with Jack Murphy, the guy who wrote the book Democrat to Deplorable, tonight on the IRL podcast. That's over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. But the next segments will be coming up over at youtube.com/TimCastNews starting at 6 p.m. I'll leave it there. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.